Our final story is a medical student who went to a top 2 medical school who was an MD-PhD student. He had been a national debate champion. He was extremely good at analysis and argumentation. He had been selected as a Soros fellow. It's a really highly competitive fellowship for graduate students that pays for 2 years of grad school, and there's not a lot that they give out. He had had multiple first author publications in Nature. He was just the absolute killer academic. When I met him, it was actually through an email that he sent me. So the first email that he sent me was basically in crisis. I was scoring in the 205 to 210 range on step 1, which was very below average. In the pre-step 1 pass-fail era, you wanted to get at least a 240. And ideally, if you wanted to get into the most competitive specialties, typically a 250. And so he was 3-ish standard deviations below that. He had said, I'm considering quitting medical school. In addition to that, he was kind of lowering his sights. He was targeting less competitive specialties, despite what I found out later was that he was interested in something that was much more competitive, but he was just losing his motivation and his belief in himself because he was struggling so much with these tests. This is a pretty common problem for people that are really, really good at studying things in depth, is that he didn't have a good system for retaining large amounts of information. He was really good at depth, but he wasn't good at breadth. Unlike in a PhD where you can really dive deep into one thing, or something like physics where you can just spend endless amounts of time. One of the big differences in medical school versus hard sciences like maybe engineering or physics or chemistry or things like that. I was a chemistry major. You would do things like physical chemistry. And I remember I would spend like an hour going over one page of my tiny P-Chem textbook. And that was normal, right? It would take you a really long time to sit and really understand something. I think PhDs can relate to this, where it's you spend so much time on such a narrow question or such a narrow topic, and you can get really, really deep into it. That's different than in medical school, where you need a certain degree of depth, you have to understand it. But where they struggle is in how do you deal with such a huge volume of information? How do you deal with the breadth of information that you see in medical school? And so his approach wasn't suited for that vast, broad content required for the USMLEs. He ended up alternating between extremes. Sometimes he would go sort of PhD mode and go into too much depth and really go down a rabbit hole. Or other times he would just do a bunch of practice questions because he was like, oh my gosh, I need to move through the material more quickly. And he would vacillate between these extremes. The issue is that he would either not move and cover enough information, or he would move so quickly that he wouldn't learn it well. And so he was constantly having this problem, not accumulating enough quality knowledge because he was either forgetting it or just not learning it well in the first place. The solution in his case was to develop a balanced approach that focused on 3 key areas. The first, to deeply understand things and to see things conceptually. Second, long-term retention system. Third was having a system of reading through questions so that once he learned it, he was able to apply it and get more questions correct for the knowledge that he knew. And so once he learned how to read questions and apply things more conceptually, then he was able to do much better. Ultimately, he decided to postpone step 1 and focused on building a strong knowledge base over the course of his clerkship. So throughout his clerkships, everything he learned really well. He never forgot it, and he learned how to apply it. And so his shelf scores would gradually grow. His knowledge would gradually grow. We call this sort of filling the bucket, right? So he fixed the leaks in his bucket by making sure that he never forgot it. And so his bucket just continued to grow in terms of how much it was able to contain. Ultimately, he scored a 255 on step 2, and he had a successful match. The last we spoke, he was having a hard time choosing between Stanford and Harvard for his dream residency, not the one that he had sort of lowered his sights for in the beginning. So if you found this helpful and want to get more questions correct for the knowledge that you already have, be sure to click in the description for our 14-step free program. And if you want help getting there faster and want to work with our team, you'll have the option of booking a free assessment with our team. And if it makes sense to work with you, we'll explain exactly what it would look like so that you can get a higher score in less time.